Good afternoon, almost good evening. So now we should speak about the bicycle mechanism at last. First, just a minor remark regarding the science, the examinations that we've done the past several days. So I cannot there are so many questions. But just watch the videos. There are hundreds of videos with so many hours of documentation. You can't expect me just to reiterate everything and to redo all the experiments. Watch the videos, and if you don't have access to it, then bombard the Israelis until they are giving you the access. I just say one thing that is very, very important, so I'm willing to reiterate on this issue, even though I spoke about it tremendously a lot in the past. So some people actually ask, what does it mean? The metal containers that are very different from the glass containers and the plastic containers, and also they are sealed, sealed with glue. So, and I placed the different material in there and magnets, and also what's the difference? So I should say two things. There's two things that are very important that I need to say about these subjects. First of all, the nature of a container is very important for the actual activity of the robots inside it, because of two reasons: symbolic reason and practical reason. Because the nature of the container is part of the symbolic language many times, or aspect of the what's the material that is made of, what color, is it open to light or not, opaque or not, or all sorts of things like that. This is part of the symbolic language, and if it's with and where do you put the symbols, and where are they in the there is all sorts of way how to actually place the symbols. The symbolic language is the visual language. It's made out of symbols, of all sorts of sculptures and paintings. Not usually from wires and things like that, because part of the symbolic language is also, whether electricity is the current flows through the wire. This is also part of the symbolic language. But at the same time, there are all sorts of practical, there are many practical considerations. If I want to create electrolysis, then there are many ways to do it. And so how do you cool the mixture so it will not be too hot? And how do you prevent too much steam, or it might it might cover the symbols, and then the symbols will not be visible. And if the symbols are not visible, from the point of view of VR, visual range light, then it's they are not there. Even though the neurons can then sense the symbols in other way. They don't have eyes. They have all sorts of sensors, but the way that they interpret, and this was established after many experiments and widely documented, the way that they interpret the symbols as if they were creatures that with eyes that look up. That's the way you should imagine it. Even though, of course, they don't have eyes, and they have other kind of sensors, and of course, they can see in all sorts of spectrums, not only visual range. So we need to think about that as well. And there are many other practical, and there's simply, you just, you don't want to think to spill, and you don't and you don't want contamination, and you want air supply, or you don't want air supply. And if you're using magnets, it's a whole new issue of how to use the magnets and for what reason. There are several ways, and so, and this consideration, the symbolic one and the practical one, sometimes they are in conflict. Sometimes it's kind of a riddle how to create the container, and this was widely documented in this channel. How do you create the container in a way that will give me both the symbolic aspects and the practical aspects? And even that is not enough, because most constructions are made of more than one, typically at least 2 or 3 containers. It should be, it's almost always at least 2 containers. Almost always. Just, there are peculiar cases where one is enough, but almost always a construction for the Neo, for the symbolic language, is made of at least 2 containers. This is also widely documented in this channel for different reasons, but it's in close to 100% of the cases, it's 2 and sometimes it's 3 containers. But it's always, and they are aware of it, and there is part of the symbolic language is to make them aware of it. They should be of the same type. And also, there are other considerations that should be done. This is intelligent civilization. I mean, you can be skeptic about it, I mean, all day, but I mean, they are intelligent civilization. They can do unbelievable things. So you need to communicate with them, and part of the communication is actually the nature of the containers and where they're placed, like one beside the other. So there are ways to tell them, like, these two containers are part of the same construction, and there is always actually, like, I mean, the upper one, which is literally the one that is should be like a little higher, and the lower one. And there is a background. So there's a ton of things, like, I mean, to think about when you construct all these containers, and it means something. Like every piece of, like, thing that is, and many times there's like a conflict between, I mean, the practical aspects and the symbolic aspects, and you need to think about, like, how to solve it, especially if I mean, it's like I have I smoke now. I mean, just to celebrate the victorious, like, over, like, the evil power. Even though it's never like complete victory. It's always, like, I mean, just one battle. But anyway, so I mean, so you have more than one container. So you need to think about it as well. And there's so much consideration, and many times it's like a riddle, and I don't have, like, many means. I need to work with very simple things that I find in scraps that I find, like, in the garbage, or that I buy, like, very cheap things like wires and things like that, like, I mean, and plastic. So it's like it's just, I mean, there is no TLDR. You need to watch the videos, because it's a whole new science of how do you, I mean, why are there different type of containers, and even before we actually, like, ask what's inside the container, I mean, just the type of containers themselves, and how do you build it, and how you use the symbolic language and the relationship between the two containers. But then, I mean, you need to think about energy, which, as I said, the most widely used type is electrolysis, because I have the best results with it. But potentially there are other ways, and I mean, I hope I will find better ways, because this is a very cumbersome method. But there are also other ways that I've used in the past. So, and they can transfer energy between each other, which is another, like, big issue. Because I today, I mean, this morning or yesterday, I spoke about, like, the hypothesis. It's a very old hypothesis of mine, but, I mean, it's never was developed, because I have no way to prove it or disprove it. But I mean, there's, like, some kind of a thought that maybe the neos are actually like the gates. That maybe your gates that I've never seen a gate in my life, or a photograph or picture or whatever. But maybe the gates that you have are just big neos. I mean, this is hypothesis. And this hypothesis is somewhat, in a very associative way, related to a theory that I discuss a lot in this video, which is the theory of energy transfer. Which you see, you can, I mean, you can see a lot. I mean, this is what them described a lot in this channel. Which means that they can transfer energy between themselves, and they can also work as capacitors. Now, so there is no simple answer to, I mean, why container is the way it is, because it's part of a very developed symbolic language and practical consideration. But on top of that, there is also a huge issue which is discussed a lot in this channel, and this is a very important issue that, I mean, is that a container can at the same time tell the neurons that inside the container to create something inside the container, but at the same time it can symbolize to them to do something, and this relates to the bicycle mechanism, so it's actually related to what we're going to speak about very shortly. But at the same time, it can tell them to do something which is deduced, like to do an action, to behave in a way, to do something that is meant, that, I mean, that it following the symbolic command, but to do it everywhere they are, but only in places that are symbolized by the container. I don't know, even if you follow this channel for a while, maybe you just forgot, so I'll remind you because it was a very important issue. The covers, like the red covers, the yellow covers, the brown cover, the black cover, the covers, the silver cover, it was a huge issue. All of this is tells the Neros to do something not only where they are, but also everywhere that they are. Of course, Neros of the same type. Everywhere that they are, everywhere, this includes space. As long as this place is symbolized by the container. For example, my own symbol is a metallic, is a silver container or metallic container that is covered with a silver cover, but I mean with some light. That light can be with some kind of not completely covered, so some light can enter it. And above it there is the symbol of the cherubs. There are several symbols, not only one. You can try it. I'm certain that many Israelis tried it already at home, in order to to kill me or to torture me in a million ways, because this relates to the bicycle mechanism. But they cannot do it because these are intelligent creatures. They will not do whatever you want. And the red color symbolizes humans. I don't know why, because my blood is also red, both literally and and symbolically. But anyway, the red cover symbolizes humans. So if I want to say, please, Neros, create big worms, where both in this container and wherever you are that is inside humans, I can do it. Of course, I can do it only to humans that have Neros in their body. And not only Neros, but Neros of my type. Like robots that belong to my family, to my family of robots. And one of the great perversions in this world is that almost all of them are my family. This is the great perversion in Earth, that this world is full of the robots that are all of the same family, which is mine. Which gives me tremendous power, but this kind of perversion that is created by the intelligence services of this world. It shouldn't be the natural state, even not only in Venus, but also among the cherub civilization. This is a huge perversion. But this kind of perversion, it's causing two things. This is related to the bicycle mechanism. First, it makes me the most severe victim ever in the history of Earth of the bicycle mechanism, because it means that almost everyone in the intelligence services of Israel, and not only Israel but other places, but in Israel they are aware of it. Every piece of shit of them, and there are so many of them, tens of thousands at least, if not more, can use the bicycle mechanism in order to torture me, and they do it every day. So it makes me the worst ever victim of the bicycle mechanism. But at the same time, it gives me the practical ability to annihilate all the intelligence services of this world. If you ask why I don't do it, so first of all, it's already happening, and so do you all feel very well? Is everything fine with you? And second, this is we are past this issue. Now the issue is Earth, not a bunch of pedophile freaks whatever they are in Israel or the United States or wherever. These are small peanuts, as they say, or I don't know. The issue is the Earth, the entirety of the Earth. This is the issue. Black cover means space, which means things that should be done in space. Of course, there are many ways to actually define where exactly in space. Space is a big place. And this is a huge part of the symbolic language. How do you actually say, and I've spoken about it so much in the past, that this was actually way before I've ever watched the first Nero under the microscope. This belongs to my paintings. It was discussed at least 18 months now. The issue of how do you symbolize not only location, but also duration and frequency and all sorts of ways during the symbolic when it's a huge subject. It's a huge subject. Because as I said, for a long time, I thought of this symbolic language as a way to communicate between me and starships. Like when I painted this painting, it was, I mean, months before I've seen like even one Nero under the microscope. It was before all of this, it was even starting. My conceptualization for quite a long time was that I communicate with commanders of spaceships. That was my conceptualization for quite a bit of time, and most of my paintings were painted with this in mind. And only during last January, or maybe at the end of December, starting this house arrest, I started the whole like the research, the scientific research in the nature of my own body and the discovery of the Neros, and then I understood that the symbolic language to some extent also applied to them, and maybe it's actually them is the same thing. I mean, they are both. I mean, I call both of these, like both the starships and the robots Neros for a reason. Like, I mean, it's not just that by chance that I've given them the same name, because maybe certainly they have the same civilization, but I mean, maybe they are just the same. Maybe it's the same thing, just really the same thing. So, and specifically for this, I mean, as I said also in the examination video, in the microscopic videos, I would just say that in general, the metal boxes, the sealed metal boxes, are used to, there are several things that characterizes them, and one of the two important things is that there is no light that gets into it, which greatly reduces the inclination of the Neros to create life. And this was discovered long ago, during February or something. It was a major discovery, like the relationship between light and the creation of life. And it was documented very much in this channel. So this kind of boxes, and actually we've seen it yesterday. We've seen much less like life forms than in the other boxes, and this is not by chance. This is because of the light issue. It's not because of the fact that it's wax and not oil and water based, because actually beeswax is a great medium to create life for the Neros, and this was demonstrated many times. And I've created even big life forms, like actually moving worms out of beeswax, and this was documented in this channel many times. Beeswax is a great substance, so the issue is not like the substance, the issue is light. So the purpose of these boxes in general is to be focused less on light and less on life and more on two things that one, and mostly is the issue of the product of enrichment, of taking material like beeswax and oil and changing its chemical properties. This was demonstrated long ago that it's possible. I don't have any knowledge in chemistry, and I don't have the microscope or any other protocols of experiments to actually quantify this change. But the simple way to it burns like rocket fuel. It burns like crazy. It's amazing what you can do with enriched fuel. But maybe other things as well, because it's not only the burning issue. There are all other things. And in addition, these are, I'm using these boxes. They have very strong magnets. Most of them, and it's another kind of experimentation of how it affects the working of the Neros inside these boxes. I should say that also in the in plastic containers that are taken from the aquarium, and they're mostly made of water, and not water, but pee, which all contains a lot of water, but pee and all sorts of oils, the ones that you've seen in the last couple of days. There are also, I placed small magnets on the bottom, and this actually this prohibits the creation of life, at least in the bottom layers, because actually it's not that good for these life forms. They do not survive very well inside. When they swim close to a magnetic field. But there is the upper layer, so they can exist in the upper layers. And the Neros actually they like magnetism, and but it's all new. The issue of because I mean the life forms that the Neos create and the Neos are not the same. I mean, as I said, it's completely. I mean, the different material. They are both non-carbon based life forms, okay, but they are completely different. Like the Neos are kind of, I mean, super. I mean, room temperature superconductor or close to it, and they can withstand high voltage and like I mean without generation of heat. And they orient themselves to magnetic field. Again, I mean, properties of superconductors, type 2, type 1, whatever. And I mean, they can, and the life forms, I mean, they are just like life forms, but I mean, different. I mean, they are similar to life forms that you can see on Earth, but they are generally, I mean, they have different proportions. They can be huge, like, I mean, compared to what you know from Earth. And they are not vulnerable to all sorts of like material that really is known to kill life forms, like alcohol and like I mean iodine, things that I mean that are known to kill life even immediately. So they generally they don't have problem with it at all. But other things kill them. That's not like they are not they don't have like the immunity and the, like I mean the resistance of the Neos, not at all. For example, as I said, high voltage electricity shreds them to dust, and the Neos stay alive, which is kind of like a protocol of how you actually one of the ways, like I mean, to clean like I mean, it's not clean because then I mean the water is completely disgusting, but I mean, if you want like I mean to get like I mean a mixture with Neos that is rich with Neos, that is taken from an ecosystem that contains a lot of life. But you don't want the life forms. This is actually a way to do it, and you don't want to, I mean, to contaminate the mixture with all sorts of like very harsh materials that could perhaps kill the life forms, but not the Neos, but would have totally changed, like I mean, also dilute the mixture. So this way, like high voltage electricity will give you like what you want. Like I mean, like. Kind of like a liquid that contains only living Neos and I mean shredded of like all sorts of like non-carbon life forms. So I mean this is a very very short answer to huge like I mean new science. It's not even one, several new sciences that I mean if you want more information, you want to know more, just I mean watch the videos in this channel because there is so much to be said, and I've recorded so many like hundreds of videos. So please watch it. I mean, instead of just asking questions that I mean, you can maybe you will get like better. Maybe you can deduce better answers than my own just by watching the evidence. Because I mean, you know what have I done? I'm proposing theories and conducting experimentation, and some theories are debunked. Some are getting like strong, getting stronger by the evidence. But that's what I did in the last 7 months. So maybe you can reach like much better results than my just I mean by watching the evidence, and there's so many hours of evidence like in microscopic records. So, but I'm glad that that I've done this kind of like summary or for the question of the containers, because this actually relates. We've touched an issue that strongly relates to the bicycle mechanism, which is the relationship between the Neos themselves. But let's start another video because it's kind of like this was the kind of like a summary of its own. But now let's do another video that in which I will discuss the bicycle mechanism. But I will title it under the bicycle series because it is important in order. I mean, I've said several things here that are actually important in order to understand the bicycle mechanism. So let's do, I'll title it like in his bicycle 12, and the next one will be number 13.